Hello everyone, my name is Bas and in this video I'm going to be speed painting these 3 trolls for my upcoming D&D session. But before I get started on the painting, I'm going to do a few touch-ups and I also want to put something on the base because otherwise it will be a bit boring. So let's get right into it. It looks like on all of the heads there's a piece missing, some of the pieces are bent or broken off and you can see there's quite a few gaps. So I'm going to try to fix all of this with green stuff. The green stuff I have comes with the blue and the yellow part attached. This means that the part in the middle, as a lot of you might know, becomes very hard. So I made sure to cut this part out, otherwise you'll get a lot of hard flakes in your green stuff and you don't want it. I started out by simply pushing some thin strips of green stuff into the gaps and smoothing them out with my wet sculpting tool. Since these 2 trolls both had a part of their head missing, I decided to add a nice tongue of green stuff. I superglued these tongues in place to make sure they wouldn't fall out while they were drying. The 3rd troll was missing part of its head, so I filled out this cavity with a ball of green stuff and I smoothed it out with my sculpting tool. After that was done, I added the horn of green stuff to the now smooth and empty area. Originally, the troll had some acid or vomit spewing from its mouth, but this part broke off long ago while I was handling it as a kid. So I'm gonna cut off what's left and I'm gonna try to turn it into a tongue with some green stuff. To decorate the bases, I just used some sand, some pebbles and some cheap tacky glue. I won't cover the entire base and I'll leave a few spots here and there. This way I can add some water effect to that later. I'm gonna leave these to dry overnight so that tomorrow I can get right into priming and painting these models. I'll see you then. So I left the trolls to dry overnight, the green stuff and the glue on the bases is fully dried, so now I can start the priming. First I will prime them with black. For this I just used some cheap dollar store black spray paint, in this case from the Action. It's a great spray paint and it's cheap. To create the zenithal highlight from above I used Wraithbone from Citadel. I'll leave this to dry for about half an hour and then I'll start base coating. To start things off I applied Cayman Green to my wet palette and I base coated all 3 of the trolls. After this I used some burnt umber to base coat the bases, the wood on the weapons and some of the leather parts they had around their bodies. The reason why I used burnt umber for all 3 of these things is to save time. Not having to use 3 different kinds of brown really saves a lot of time, especially since I don't have to clean my brush in between. After that I mixed some pink for all the tongues. Since I don't have a pink color, I decided to mix one myself. The white I used is titanium white acrylic paint. And the red I used is Mephiston Red by Citadel. Even though the white was quite pigment rich, the red was quite old and falling apart a little bit, so I had to apply several coats to all of the tongues. After this I used some standard Mechanicus Grey by Citadel and applied it to all the stone and metal parts of the weapons. I wanted to give the belly a different color to break it up a little bit. So for this I used khaki. And to blend it in I just used some wet blending. I applied some khaki to the belly and I just aggressively blended it in until I got a nice transition. One of the reasons why I decided to use khaki for this is because it gives a nice contrast with the green. And the other reason is I wanted to use it later on to dry brush the bases and the wood on the weapons. So using the same paint once again saves some time. At this point the trolls are looking alright, but they're still a little bit boring. So I decided to break it up by painting the scales in a different color, in this case purple. For this I used dark blue by Vallejo. This purple is really intense though, so I mixed in some of the Cayman Green to mute it down a little bit and I applied it to all of the scales on the body. Up until this point I've been kind of sloppy with my painting because I wanted to get it done fast. And after this I'm gonna apply some streaking grime. And I'm hoping the streaking grime will hide a lot of the mistakes I've made and provide a nice contrast. I really think this is gonna make or break the paint job. But I'm quite scared because I've never really used Vallejo streaking grime, or any streaking grime for that matter, on a model. I aggressively applied the streaking grime all over the trolls with the big brush. After that was done, I cleaned off the brush in some water and I removed all the places where the streaking grime started to pool or where I didn't want the effect to be as intense. At this point I've been at it for about 2 hours and I'm gonna have to let the streaking grime dry before I come back to it and bring out some of the details once again. While that's drying I'm gonna have some dinner, so I'll see you in a little bit. Now that the streaking grime is dry, I think it really looks quite nice. It really gives them a dirty and gritty look. which I really like. But it's also become a bit muted. So to bring out some of the colors once again, I'm going to dry brush all the scales by mixing some white to the purple, and I'm going to highlight the skin again by mixing some white with the green. This time I'm trying to be a bit more careful, as this is going to be the final result. The teeth also became a little bit too dirty from the streaking gram, so I applied a few more coats of white to give them a little bit more of a lighter color. After that I used some black paint to paint all the toenails, fingernails, horns and the rim on the base. Especially the black on the nails provides a nice contrast. To bring out the detail on the base, I dry brushed it with some khaki. And after that I applied some water effects from AK Interactive. I also super glued some tufts to the bases, and now there's only one more thing to do, and that is final reveal.